in urbanization. For one thing, we have not addressed the challenge of skill development, especially in a young population, a growing young population. We did not cover that. We have not covered a very important area of informality, which really shows that in India, because the ease of doing business is very low, that you have a whole lot of economic activity shifting from the formal sector to the informal sector. And so you have a whole lot of informal development going on in our cities, where city planning, city management is not catered to handle that. And that whole area, you could write a book on that, but that's also something which, the whole question of urban design that Ellen also referred to, is something that we have not looked at. The implications of all the things that you have heard on water, wastewater treatment, solid waste management, the implications for public health, and how does India's positioning in terms of investment and governance to create good public health conditions compare with, say, the industrialized countries of the world at a similar stage of development. That's also, something which we have not addressed. Then, in the area of public transport, the various choices, and a lot has been mentioned. So I would like to encourage our participants to draw our attention to even other areas beyond, besides what I have mentioned, where you think we need to focus on more. The idea here is to have a freewheeling discussion and develop a research agenda for the future, and research agenda not just for the urban team at ICRIER, but also at the National Institute of Urban Affairs, at the School of Planning and Architecture, in many, many think tanks around the country who are really working on these issues. So I just thought that I should make that point clear, that some people may be feeling diffident, that they've not read the book, so they will not raise the whole idea here was to make the book the occasion for bringing us together and then raising any issues that may come to you. And we are going to make a formal announcement at the book launch in the evening, but I should also mention one initiative which ICRIER has started with the India Habitat Center. It's called Conversations on Urbanization. So here at ICRIER, once every 2 months, we are going to have a lecture by either a practitioner or a thinker from within India, from outside, just coming and talking to the India Habitat Center membership to, find ways on how to take this whole urban dialogue further. So with those remarks from the chair, I now give an opportunity to the authors of this section, since I have taken up my time giving the context of the conference. I would like to invite Dr. Mohanty to make a few comments, and then we open it to all for their interventions. Please.
Thank you, ma'am. In this book, we have taken perspectives from different angles. For example, the paper on planning and markets for urban development, we have taken the views of economists and planners. And we noticed that there is a clear disconnect between socio-economic planning and spatial planning. If you look at our Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, we have been preparing city development plan. Earlier we used to prepare master plans. Then we are shifting to city mobility plans, city transport plans, city sanitation plans, city financing plans. likewise, I think many plans are being done, but without integration. So we start with the first type of integration, which is classic, but which is not done. Land use transportation integration. If you look at the current model of planning, master planning, transportation is a residual. Whereas we argue that transportation should be the leader, it should guide, it should lead development. So we focus on land use transportation planning integration, and transit oriented development is very suitable to the Indian conditions because we have got densities, we have got the population. So we have focused on transit oriented development. Already ma'am has spoken about urban design. We talk of a flexible planning model with FSI as a tool of management. Then coming to land assembly, we find the model of DDA, the eminent domain model of the government, it has failed. We have given examples of Gujarat town planning scheme, Magarpata, land development scheme, township development with farmers are partners, Vijayawada land sharing model. Then we have discussed quite a lot on inclusion. Our cities, the planning paradigm is in our country is not in consonance with the income distribution structure of the cities. We have got 70% who live in poor and slum settlements. Our planners design cities based on the middle class requirement. So we have proposed about inclusionary planning, inclusionary zoning, and in the traditional model of master planning, financing is a casualty. But we have tried to pose that financing must be integrated into the core planning model. We have discussed about land value capture. There are other papers. We have discussed about land taxation, development financing, and value capture financing. And lastly, I think we have given a number of examples. We feel Indian conditions may be different, but the principles of economics and planning are same everywhere. We have referred to Singapore, we have referred to Seoul, Hong Kong, Guangzhou, Curitiba, Bogota, our own models of town planning scheme in Gujarat, Vijayawada model, Magarpata model, Pimpri-Chinchwad, using of transport as a resource, quite a number of things we have done. I think we need to address the problem of urban planning not from the perspective of a spatial planner. We need to integrate economic planning, spatial planning, transportation planning, financial planning, including our inclusionary planning, because our planning paradigm of the country is growth with inclusion. We feel inclusion has to be explicitly crafted into the model of planned urban development. Thank you.
Now I will just invite interventions or comments from the floor. Please use the microphone.
Professor Sanjukta Bhaduri from School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi. There are three points which I wanted to mention. Is that when we talk of inclusion, we also and related aspect is participatory planning. I mean, how and when and we require people to participate in the planning process. Traditionally, we say that planning is for the people, by the people. So how that participatory planning we have to get in that inclusive process, that is one aspect which need to be detailed out and put forth. Second point is that there are a lot of projects, a lot of development activities which we have no real format for a social impact assessment in our country. We have taken environment ahead, definitely, but social impacts, how do they impact? the city, the people. So that social impacts is another area which we need to go ahead with. And the third point is that beyond the jurisdiction of our cities, beyond the city jurisdictions in terms of administrative boundaries, territories, we have developments. There are peri-urban areas which are developing. So provision of services, provision of facilities, planning those areas, governing and managing those areas is also one of the challenges which are coming forth to us, because big cities are spilling over due to whatever reasons, but there are many reasons for which they are spilling over. But there's lack of governance and management opportunity, you can say interventions for such areas. So these are the 3 points which I wanted to. Thank you.
Dinesh Mohan.
Thank you very much. Dinesh Mohan from IIT Delhi. I have one question from Alan. On this issue of FSI, we have some work done in publications from Sirish Patel in Mumbai. And he argues that because of our density of living is higher per flat, per square meter, then 30 floors in Manhattan is similar to about 6 floors in Mumbai. And so he argues that we should not have an FSI index, but a density index per square meter. Otherwise, you get 6 times the number of people coming down the road in Indian cities. So that issue has been raised over the last 2 years, but has not really taken root yet. So I would like to comment on that. And number 2 comments. I'm glad you raised the issue of Bogota and Curitiba. One serious problem in all work on public transportation, and even analyzing transportation in general, that is all based on cities with a CBD. There is no Indian city with a CBD. As a matter of fact, we have 3 cities, the British city, and
You're not talking only to urban fellows, Central Business District, please.
Okay, central business district. So there is no central business, so therefore high capacity systems will fail in this country. And what you mentioned, that we must have a public transport system every 500 or 800 meters, is the issue. You have to have medium capacity, high density networks to provide public transport. And lastly, the whole issue of TOD was raised. We have a lot of confusion about TOD. TOD comes from a century ago when there were no people around, and so they wanted bus stops and train stops and put people there. In our cities, I don't care. In any major artery, when you put public transport, it's full. And so you don't even have to plan. You just have to put, and a lot of consultants make unreasonable money by planning. You just put public transport on any artery rail in India, it's full. And so TOD has no meaning here, because public transport works very well in cities which have densities of 40, 50 per hectare. We are over 100, 150. So those are some of the issues which, and because all this research literature comes from those kind of cities, most of us fail to understand that some of it doesn't apply to us.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks.
the basic principles.
Elaine, I'll give you a little more time. Let's collect the comments made. Amitabh? A transit-oriented development. I didn't want to interrupt him the second time. I will in future.
I think because we've been a very reluctant urbanizers, technology will be a very critical player. If you look across some of the brownfield development across the world, cities like Barcelona, the integration of technology with urban planning has been immense. They've broken this vertical silos of power, water, transportation, and converged them very effectively. So to my mind, Indian planners, Indian geographical planners, in fact global planners, till now haven't started blending geographical planning with technology. That's one. Number 2, ma'am, Indian cities, I don't think rapid urbanization is feasible in India till we don't do land monetization very effectively.